Imagine the shock, the sheer audacity as a can of Coca-Cola is hurled not in jest but in scorn at a woman whose only crime was the color of her skin. Here in the bustling heart of Manhattan at Apex Marketing, where ambition and dreams should be the only currency, a different, darker narrative unfolds. The sweet, sticky liquid cascades down Nina Thompson's meticulously styled curls, her navy blue blouse now a canvas of humiliation. Jessica Whitmore, the blonde manager with a sneer as sharp as her words, watches with a twisted satisfaction. Oops, I thought you needed to refresh those mediocre ideas. She mocks, her voice a cruel echo through the office. Look, everyone, the company's diversity initiative, taking a Coca-Cola shower. Brad Mitchell, the account coordinator, shouts, his iPhone 15 capturing every moment of this disgrace. At his side, Samantha Chun, the HR assistant, laughs, her fingers flying across her phone screen, typing out a message that would soon add to the digital mockery. Nina, at 29, stood alone, the only black analyst in this sea of privilege. Her reports now marred by the brown liquid, a testament to her dedication now tainted by prejudice. For 6 months, she had endured the subtle and not-so-subtle jabs, the whispers, the sidelong glances that told her she was an outsider in this corporate world. You know what your problem is, Nina? Jessica taunts, her Chanel perfume mingling with the sickly sweet smell of Coca-Cola. You don't know your place. You think you can sit at the same table as us just because you have some little public college degree. The glass-walled conference room, a supposed beacon of transparency, had turned into a stage for this grotesque display of cruelty. Employees, some embarrassed, most indifferent, watched from the common area. It was the Friday before Labor Day, the office unusually quiet, providing the perfect backdrop for this calculated act of humiliation. Nina took a deep breath, her brown eyes not glistening with tears, but with a fierce determination. She calmly picked up her cell phone, ignoring the taunts. Going to call your mommy or your Uber boyfriend. Brad sneered, moving the camera closer, his voice dripping with condescension. But Nina knew better than to let their words define her strength. As the subway rattled into the Bronx, Samantha's laughter rang out sharp and shrill. Guys, you're terrible, she chided, yet her eyes gleamed with mischief. But it's true, isn't it, Nina? How do you keep up that executive facade on an assistant's salary? What those three corporate predators failed to grasp was that Nina Thompson was no mere climber of the corporate ladder. Hidden beneath her polished exterior lay secrets, connections that stretched beyond the confines of this toxic workplace. Go ahead, Nina whispered, her fingers dancing over her phone's screen. You've just made the best decision of your lives. Jessica's frown deepened, her confusion palpable. What are you talking about? Has the sugar gone to your head? Nina glanced at the discreet Patek Philippe watch on her wrist, a detail so subtle it had always escaped notice. In exactly 15 minutes, you'll understand everything. Bretta's cell phone, now lowered, wore a mask of doubt. 15 minutes, are you delirious? Samantha, ever the most perceptive, sensed an anomaly in Nina's demeanor. There was no fear, no anger, only the unsettling tranquility of one who knows what lies ahead. Then, as if on cue, the private elevator reserved for the board of directors illuminated on the 42nd floor. The doors parted with a gentle chime, and out stepped three security guards in uniform, their presence commanding the room's attention. Behind them, a tall, imposing figure emerged, clad in a Tom Ford suit that whispered of wealth and power. Nina, Alexander Sterling's voice, deep and resonant, sliced through the office's silence. Are you okay? If looks could kill Jessica, Brad and Samantha would have been 6 feet under. What none in that office could fathom was that they had just crossed a threshold from which there was no turning back. The game had changed, and the stakes were now perilously high. Alexander Sterling, with his commanding presence, strode into the office, his demeanor shifting from worry to barely contained fury upon witnessing Nana's plight. Coca-Cola still dripped from her hair, marring the pristine white collar of her navy blouse. Security, he bellowed with a voice as cold as steel. Escort these three individuals out of the building immediately. Jessica, caught off guard by the unfolding drama, stepped forward, her mind reeling. Excuse me, but who the hell do you think you are? This is our office and Nana is our employee. Wrong. Alexander positioned himself like a shield next to Nana. This is my office. Sterling Enterprises holds the majority shares of Apex Marketing. Brad's iPhone hit the marble floor with a resounding clatter, while Samantha's complexion turned ghostly as she frantically scrolled through LinkedIn. Sterling Enterprises chairman and CEO Alexander Sterling, net worth 7-8 billion. That's the peril of judging by appearances. Nana finally spoke, her voice serene as she wiped her face with a tissue. You never cared to discover who I truly am. The tale of Nana Thompson Sterling had its roots 4 years prior at an MIT technology conference. She a full scholarship student and he a distinguished guest speaker. Their initial exchange on machine learning algorithms blossomed into a love story that transcended societal norms. But why are you working here? Jessica stuttered, her thoughts swirling, trying to reconcile the woman she demeaned with the spouse of one of New York's most influential figures. Nana, with a calm resolve, began her narrative. When Alexander and I met, it wasn't about wealth or status. It was about passion, about potential. We connected over shared dreams, not shared bank accounts. I chose to work here not for a title, but for a purpose. To learn to grow, to perhaps one day change the game from within. Her words, imbued with a quiet strength, hung in the air, challenging the very essence of corporate arrogance and the superficial judgments that had led to this moment of reckoning. For the first time since that fateful incident, a smile graced her face. It was not merely a smile of relief, but one of defiance, a testament to her belief in earning her place through merit, not through the legacy of her name. I wanted to prove my worth, she declared, without riding on the coattails of the Sterling name. For 6 grueling months, she had painstakingly recorded every slight, every injustice. There were printouts of emails dripping with disdain, audio captures of meetings where her contributions were silently pilfered, and security footage that screamed the silent truth of her unequal treatment. All this evidence was carefully stored in the cloud, biding its time. You thought I was weak because I was silent. Nana's voice broke through the tension, her eyes alight with an unyielding resolve. You mistook my dignity for submission. That was your gravest error. A figure in a gray suit stepped out of the elevator, his presence commanding attention. Marcus Chun Sterling, Enterprise's lead attorney, and Nana's most trusted ally, approached with purpose. I have here complete documentation. He began distributing folders to Jessica, Brad, and Samantha, detailing moral harassment, racial discrimination, and the creation of a hostile work environment. This is preposterous. Brad's voice rose, his face flushed with anger. It was all just in good fun. She never said a word. Alexander, ever vigilant, picked up Brad's still recording cell phone. Like throwing Coca-Cola on her and calling it a diversity shower, or saying she lives in the Bronx and took the subway here just because she's black. He questioned the sarcasm dripping from his tone. Samantha, overwhelmed, began to cry. I have bills to pay, a family to support. Funny, Nana interjected, her voice tinged with irony. I have a family too. My mother a nurse, my father a bus driver. They toiled their entire lives to provide me with an education. And you thought that made me inferior. Unknown to the trio over recent weeks, Nana had quietly introduced a new data analysis system that promised to boost Apex's efficiency by an astounding 47%. This project worth millions was registered solely in her name. You have 30 minutes to clear your desks, Alexander declared, his voice firm. Any attempt at retaliation will be met with immediate legal action. In a last desperate plea, Nana turned to her colleagues who stood in stunned silence. Are you really going to stand by and let this happen? She implored, her voice tinged with both frustration and hope. Everyone here knows what she's like. Her words hung in the air. The silence that followed was almost deafening. Several coworkers averted their gaze, their faces painted with shame. Then from the IT department, Tom Williams stepped forward, his voice steady. Actually, Jessica, many of us here admire Na's work. You're the one who's fostered this toxic atmosphere. As security closed in, Nana swiftly gathered her laptop and personal belongings. Pausing beside Jessica, she whispered almost inaudibly, "You know what's ironic? I was going to resign today, but you've just handed me a far better gift." Her eyes briefly flickered to the PC Philippi watch on her wrist, a cherished wedding gift from Alexander. Marking the time at 3:47 p.m., in precisely 13 minutes, a memo would ripple through the company, heralding sweeping changes to the diversity and inclusion policy. Nana touched Alexander's arm, her expression resolute yet tender. "I want to use this for something greater, not just for personal vengeance." He nodded, his eyes reflecting immediate understanding. "The scholarship fund you wanted to create," he confirmed. "Exactly," she replied. "Four young Black individuals in technology funded by the value of the shares these three own in the company. What those corporate predators had mistaken for weakness was in truth the quiet strength of those who meticulously gather evidence, bide their time, and transform personal injustice into a catalyst for systemic change." But the story was far from over. The true repercussions of that Friday afternoon were only beginning to surface. Apex Marketing's digital panic room was thrown into chaos when Marcus Chun started projecting a presentation titled "Evidence of Hostile Environment Thompson versus Apex Marketing" onto the auditorium's main screen. An emergency meeting had been called, promising significant revelations about structural changes. "No, no, no," Jessica shrieked, lunging for Marcus's laptop. "You can't do that. It's an invasion of privacy." But her cries were drowned out by the unfolding drama. "Invasion of privacy." Alexander's voice cut through the tension, his tone laced with irony and disbelief. As the presentation continued, the auditorium was cloaked in a chilling silence, broken only by the soft yet piercing voice of Na. "6 months," she declared, her voice steady like the calm before a storm. "For 6 months, you meticulously chronicled your own downfall with each click, each screenshot, each snide caption." Her gaze swept over the room, capturing the wide-eyed shock of her colleagues. "Human Resources has every single piece of evidence." The screen flickered, and a new slide emerged, revealing a project so monumental that it seemed to suck the air from the room. Project Prometheus. It read, a groundbreaking predictive marketing analysis system crafted by none other than Nina Thompson Sterling. Its estimated value, a staggering $47 million. And its status, patented. "While you were squandering your time belittling me," Nina's voice rose, filled with a fiery determination, "I was creating an algorithm poised to transform the landscape of data analysis in marketing. Sterling Enterprises has already secured the exclusive rights." Jessica reeled, her face paling at the revelation. "Sterling Enterprises," she whispered, the implications dawning on her. Alexander, seizing the moment, added with a voice as cold as the winter's breath, "Yes, Jessica, every penny of profit this project generates for the next 2 decades will be funneled directly into the Nina Thompson Fund for Black Youth Technology Scholarships. And let's not forget the initial funding that comes from the forced sale of your shares in this very company." Brad, in a last desperate attempt to regain control, blurted out, "This is extortion. We'll sue you." Marcus Chin, ever the composed figure, adjusted his glasses with a slow, deliberate movement. "Extortion is blackmail, Brad. We are simply presenting documented evidence of hate crimes, moral harassment, and systemic racial discrimination. The law will have its say, and justice its day." The air was thick with tension, the weight of their actions now palpable as the room waited for the storm to break. The next slide illuminated the screen, casting an eerie glow over the room. The company's organizational chart was laid bare, stark and unyielding. Three names, Jessica Whitmore, Brad Mitchell, and Samantha Chun, flashed in crimson, a damning spotlight on their impending fates. Their positions were marked for immediate termination, the reason chillingly clear: just cause. Jessica, her voice quivering, yet fierce, erupted in defiance. "You can't fire us for just cause. Tears of frustration and rage carved paths down her cheeks as she declared their intent to battle the verdict. Nena, with a calm that belied the storm brewing, countered, "You might want to see this first." She gestured toward a screen where a video began to play. It was Brad captured in a moment of disgrace, hurling a Coca-Cola can and spewing vitriol about diversity showers. His own voice filled the room. "I bet you live in the Bronx and took the subway here today." A heavy silence fell. Several colleagues averted their eyes, haunted by their own inaction. Then Alexander, with a gravity that weighed on every heart, announced, "Sterling Enterprises will enforce a new compliance program company-wide. Compliance is non-negotiable for any company wishing to maintain contracts with us." Samantha, overwhelmed, broke into sobs. "My career, my reputation, it's all destroyed," she lamented, her voice a whisper of despair. Nina's gaze was unyielding. "You spent 6 months tearing down mine. Now you face the repercussions of your actions." The final slide unveiled a beacon of hope amidst the wreckage. The Nina Thompson Fund, with an initial commitment of $50 million, aimed to provide 1,000 full scholarships in technology to young Black women over the next 5 years. Brad, nearly choking on his shock, managed "Where from?" Nana, with a clarity that cut through the tension, replied, "From the fines you'll pay for discrimination, the reversal of bonuses, and my personal contribution." She added a note of finality in her tone. "And every company you attempt to join will receive a full dossier on this case. Good luck explaining your dismissal for documented racism in interviews." Jessica, the realization dawning like a cold dawn, collapsed to her knees, the weight of her actions finally crushing her spirit. "Please, I have bills, a mortgage," she pleaded, her voice a shadow of its former defiance. With devastating calm, Nina replied, her voice a whisper that carried the weight of her truth. "Funny," she said, her words a soft cutting blade. "I had bills too when you sabotaged my projects, stole my ideas, and made me question my very existence here. But here's the stark difference. I channeled my pain into something constructive. You, however, turned your privilege into cruelty." As security guards began the solemn task of escorting the trio out, the auditorium's big screen displayed one final poignant message. It read, "True diversity isn't about quotas. It's about recognizing that talent transcends color, class, or zip code." The room burst into applause, a crescendo of approval and solidarity, as Nina Thompson Sterling stood center stage. The Coca-Cola stain on her shirt had long dried, but her dignity shone undimmed, her legacy just beginning to unfold. What no one in that room could have anticipated was that this moment was not merely a personal victory, but the genesis of a movement that would ripple through the tech industry, transforming it in ways yet to be imagined. Proving that sometimes the greatest revolutions are sparked by one person's refusal to accept the confines others impose upon them. 6 months later, the Metropolitan Opera House in Manhattan brimmed with anticipation for the premiere of Code Nanina: How Corporate Racism Created a Revolution. Nina Thompson Sterling, now a beacon of change, graced the stage in an elegant black Armani suit, not for show, but as a symbol of her newfound freedom to choose without judgment. "When they threw Coca-Cola at me," she began, her voice resonating through the historic theater, "they didn't realize they were watering the seed of change that has now flourished, providing full scholarships to 347 young Black individuals in technology." In the audience, cameras captured a mosaic of emotion. Fortune 500 CEOs, civil rights activists, and most poignantly, the first recipients of the Nina Thompson Fund scholarships. These brilliant young scholars from marginalized communities now walk the hallowed halls of MIT, their futures bright with promise. The documentary unveiled a startling twist of fate. Jessica Whitmore had attempted to bring a lawsuit against Nina for defamation and moral damages, but her legal team abandoned the case upon encountering the undeniable evidence. Brad Mitchell, after facing rejection in 23 job interviews, found himself ironically delivering food via app, a job he had once scoffed at. Samantha Chun, seeking solace, relocated to a quaint village, erased her digital footprints. And now her days are filled with drafting letters of regret, letters that echo into silence. In a twist of fate that could only be described as poetic, Nana revealed the most ironic thing is that 3 days before they hurled Coca-Cola at me, I had completed an algorithm designed to detect patterns of discrimination within corporate settings using artificial intelligence. They unwittingly handed me the final piece of data I needed to perfect the system. The acqui-hire app crafted by Nanina had already been embraced by 200 companies worldwide, amassing a staggering 180 million in revenue in its first quarter alone. Every cent of profit was funneled back into expanding the scholarship program. In a landmark move, Microsoft, Google, and Apple united in a historic partnership to integrate this revolutionary system into their hiring processes. Tom Williams, the IT colleague who had defended Nina on that dark day, now leads as CTO of Sterling Enterprises' Technology Diversity Division. Watching Nina transform humiliation into a revolution taught me that silence in the face of injustice is complicity, he reflected to the New York Times. The most poignant moment of the evening was when Marcus Thompson, Nina's father, a retired bus driver who had worked tirelessly for 40 years to support his daughter's education, stepped onto the stage clutching the Nobel Peace Prize trophy that Nina had just been awarded. The first Black person to be recognized for innovation in social justice technology. His voice trembled with pride and emotion as he declared, "My daughter has always been brilliant, but they only saw her color. Now the world sees her brilliance." On the screen, the once prestigious Apex marketing office appeared now a mere shell of its former glory. The company had crumbled into bankruptcy, its contracts with Sterling Enterprises and its affiliates severed like frayed threads. The building, once a beacon of corporate ambition, had been reborn as the Nanina Thompson Institute for Technological Equity, a sanctuary where young Black minds now toiled tirelessly. They were the new architects of change, using AI to forge weapons against the insidious beast of systemic racism. Jessica Whitmore, in her final public spectacle, attempted to salvage her tarnished reputation on a nearly forgotten podcast. "I lost everything over a silly jest," she lamented, her voice quivering with feigned innocence. Yet the video that captured this moment of desperation did not evoke the sympathy she sought. Instead, it spread like wildfire across the internet, a glaring testament to how privilege can blind one to the weight of their actions. The comments beneath her video were unforgiving, sharp as daggers. "You didn't lose everything over a joke. You harvested the bitter fruits of years sown in racism." Now, Sterling, with the poise of a true visionary, concluded her speech with words that would echo through time. "They asked me if this was revenge. I say it was justice. Revenge destroys. Justice builds. I turned every drop of that Coke into fuel to change an entire system. Because the greatest revolution isn't tearing down those who oppress us. It's building ladders so others don't suffer as we have." As she descended from the stage, her phone buzzed with a message from a young girl in the Bronx. "Miss Sterling, I just got accepted into the scholarship program. I'm the first in my family to go to college. Thank you for not giving up that day." Na's smile was radiant, a reflection of the hope she had kindled. They had indeed made the best decision of their lives, though not in the way they might have anticipated. A year later, the term Nanina effect was coined in academic circles, symbolizing how exposure to institutional racism could ignite systemic transformation. Jessica, Brad, and Samantha, now mere case studies, served as cautionary tales of the consequences of prejudice in the corporate world. What had begun as a moment of personal vendetta had blossomed into a movement that promised not just change, but a new dawn of equity and justice. In the heart of the corporate jungle, amidst the towering skyscrapers of Manhattan, the saga unfolded. Nana Thompson Sterling, a beacon of hope and change, relentlessly pursued her mission to transmute every whisper of injustice into a clarion call for social reform. The lesson she imparted was as clear as the skyline on a cloudless day. In that very office, 3 souls chose the venomous path of hatred only to lose their essence. Yet one soul, one brave heart, chose justice igniting a transformation that would ripple through the world. Consider this, dear viewers, does not racism, that insidious beast, not only ravage its victims, but also corrode the very soul of those who harbor it? Have you ever stood at the crossroads of injustice, where a single act could tilt the scales toward positive change? Share with us your tales of triumph over adversity in the comments below. If this narrative of justice and metamorphosis has stirred your spirit, I implore you to subscribe to our channel. Let the bells chime be your herald for more stories that affirm true revenge is not in tearing down those who have wronged us, but in constructing a world where such wrongs are no more. Thank you for joining us on this journey. Your comments, like shares and subscriptions, are the lifeblood of our mission to spread light and understanding.